This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to a Monday, December 27th episode of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante, coming at you with a shorty after the holiday weekend, before the other holiday weekend. We're coming at you live Monday and Thursday this week, 2 o'clock Eastern, both times. Is it going to be a little longer on Thursday? That I don't know. I simply can't tell you that because guess what? No news is breaking. We're not getting any news. We got the blessed gift of some news at the end of last week, though, because we are going to talk about Eric Chavez, who's joining the Yankees coaching staff, and Aaron Boone's extremely high opinion of Eric Chavez, who's joining the Yankees coaching staff. Is this a rare reason to be excited in an offseason that's mostly been marked with inactivity? Plus, one Yankees trade target that nobody's talking about except us. We're going to raise the issue and see if you have any thoughts on it, and the David Ortiz Hall of Fame case. Vote for David Ortiz if you want to. Fine, I get it. Don't vote for David Ortiz because of the reason that one voter gave this week. We're going to take him to task. Make sure to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a 5-star review along with a mailbag question. We'd be more than happy to answer that, especially this week. We'd be more than happy to answer anything because we got nothing to talk about except for the topics laid out at the top of the pod. Thomas Carinante, welcome to the podcast. How was your Christmas? I heard bad.
Yeah, it was fine. Brother got COVID. Shout out Anthony if you're watching. Sorry, man. Rough stuff. He's okay, though. Everything's good. Postponed till next week. Easy. Celebrated with the other half of the family. But yeah, here for a post-Christmas ep. Some things to talk about. Like you said, I'll answer questions about my personal life at this point. Any mailbag personal questions about my family, about my Christmas plans, whatever you want. Whatever you want. But how was your Christmas, more importantly?
More importantly, why is that? Just equally importantly, I don't think it's
Sure.
more important. Yeah, it was a great time. We had the family over at the in-laws' house. Had a wonderful time. Still there, rocking suburban Philadelphia. Took in Giants Eagles by myself yesterday. The lone Giants fan in the section. I hate that team. That football team sucks, and yet I still found myself pridefully trying to defend them against that team is terrible. I would never watch them again as long as I live, and we're only a couple blessed short weeks away from next year might be just as terrible, but at least it won't be this year. This year will be over. I won't have to live in 2021 anymore. Yeah. And I still found myself kind of getting riled up. The Giants, Jalen Hurts threw an off-target pass by 20 yards in a 0-0 game in the second quarter, and I found myself doing the whole oh yeah, oh nice throw, nice throw, oh way to go, fully knowing that my quarterback was 5 of 15 for 18 yards passing or some garbage like that. I also, the guys behind us, and these are nice seats too. The guys behind us, you would play a game with me of, is this anti-Semitic or not? They said, where are all the New York Giant fan cockroaches? Go back to New York. Now, is that anti-Jewish or is that just a weird word to say?
It's close.
I don't know.
Wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say
that. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. It's just a weird insult. I don't know if it's not anti-Semitic, where'd it come from? If the guys behind me are listening to this podcast, feel free to chime in. Would love to know.
Would love to hear a mailbag question.
Yeah, where do your New York specific insults come from, and are they related to Judaism or not? Before we trip too far down that rabbit hole, again, we promised you a shorty. We just can't talk about this stuff for that long. We're not gonna look. You're taking up your blessed holiday, sitting here watching us talk about the New York Yankees. New York Yankees aren't doing anything. So we're not going to make you sit here for, Mom, put the ham back in the oven. I got another 55 minutes of a live Yankees podcast. No, you don't. We can't do that to you. But we do need to talk about a couple of things. Yanks made two coaching changes at the end of last week. One of which probably slid right under the radar. It's a minor league. They promoted. So obviously they promoted minor league coordinator Dylan Lawson to the hitting coach job. They added 2 additional hitting coaches as they said they would. One is sort of a minor promotion and one that definitely went under the radar. And the other is Eric Chavez, former New York Yankee. Eric Chavez, 2011, 2012 Yankee, pretty good. Went to Arizona after he left the Yankees, still actually pretty good. Retired at the age of 36, I believe. Managed in the Angels system, and he's now joining the New York Yankees as the, a major league hitting coordinator. But Aaron Boone had a lot more to say about Chavez after he was officially brought on board. Boone spoke to the media on December 22nd. He had a weird afternoon press conference in which he basically said 2 things. One, the Yankees have no idea what's going on with their injured players, which is, great place to be in, but that's an MLB mandated spot. So they asked him rehab updates on everybody. He had nothing to say about Jamison Tyone, Luke Voigt, DJ LeMahieu, and his sports hernia. Got no information for you there. I did see Jamison Tyone going down a slide with a child over the holidays. So his leg is healthy enough to go leg first down a small slide. You heard it here first. In case that comes up, in case the Yankees play in Milwaukee and somebody homers and they need somebody to go down Bernie Brewer's slide. Jameson Tyone is officially healthy enough to do that, but I don't know anything else about him. I know as much as Aaron Boone does. But the second thing, he did talk about Eric Chavez, who is an assistant hitting coach, like we said, but Boone had higher praise for him. He said he will be the, quote, Swiss Army knife of the Yankees coaching staff. That means more duties than just, hitting coaching. And that in the interview process, in a lot of ways, Chavez, quote, blew him away. Now, we wrote a piece centered on the fact that maybe Aaron Boone was heaping praise on his future replacement. That is obviously not immediate. There's no way that at the end of this year, the Yankees go directly from Boone to Chavez. He signed a 3-year deal. If things get disastrous, sure, they'll move on from Boone at the end of this season if they win 75 games and they're 15 games out by July and everything cratered and Aaron Judge is furious because they wouldn't extend him and the season's falling apart at the seams. And then, yeah, maybe Eric Chavez is your manager next year. But I'm talking more in the 2-3 year plan situation. They seem to like Eric Chavez a hell of a lot. Chavez's name came up for the Angels managerial job a couple years ago when it actually went to Joe Maddon, which is a completely strange dichotomy to think of, like 40-year-old first-year manager, former player, or 68-year-old, legendary analytics head Joe Maddon. But Eric Chavez is something of an analytics guru himself. He had a quote from an Athletic article from 2018 that went viral again on Yankees Twitter this week when everybody sort of collectively realized. He said he basically wants to wean people off of using batting average. Batting average just isn't that important. He'd like to focus on other stats. Objectively, yeah, not that important, especially when you can have, high OPS, ton of homers, ton of extra base hits, ton of walks. Batting average is not the most important statistic. I think a lot of fans read that the wrong way and went, back in my day, we had guys hitting 330 and we weren't losers. And there's something in between. I think batting average needs to be de-emphasized when you're evaluating a player. But certainly if you have a player hitting 330 with a 420 OBP, that's better than a player hitting 260 with a 380 OBP. Both OBPs pretty good. But the higher average, more hits, more putting pressure, putting people on the base paths.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the higher average in a situation where I have to pick and choose between some similar-ish profiles, but it's not the most important stat in the world. It's an interesting mindset, and he's going to be used as a hitting guru and a Swiss Army knife, which does make you think the Yankees value him highly enough to be like, let's get your feet wet in other areas in case, maybe the Boone era, maybe the disdain keeps rising, and after 2024, it's no longer tenable, and we can no longer sell our fans this trash, and instead of an external hire, we're going to go with Eric Chavez, promote him from within. Remember, we said he was going to be a Swiss Army knife when we hired him, and lo and behold, he's helping out with the bullpen, and he's, dipping his toes into other transactions. What say you on this? Obviously, that was sort of a mishmash of just different thoughts about how pumped the Yankees were to have Eric Chavez in the fold. Yeah. But clearly, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill 12th coaching hire. They really believe in this guy.
Yeah, I don't care. I just don't. I need to see it in action. I need to feel something. I need to see his energy. My big thing is Eric Chavez a hard ass? Because I would like that on this coaching staff. That's kind of what I feel like we've been missing. Phil Nevin kind of was, but I don't know if he was exactly the bad enough cop that the Yankees needed or the Yankees coaching staff needed. I love the fact that he's going to be a Swiss Army knife. It does give you a glimpse into the future of what could potentially be a few years down the road. Obviously, we don't want to be thinking about, so who's going to be our next manager after Aaron Boone? I know a lot of us are thinking that, but we have it probably at least 2 more years of Boone unless we lose 90 games this year and miss the playoffs, and then he's forced to get fired. But I'm seeing at least a couple of years left of Boone unless there is mass disappointment. And you look at Chavez, this guy got MVP votes 4 years in a row. He was a 6-time Gold Glover 6 years in a row from 01 to 01 to 06 or 02 to 06 or something like that. Career numbers: 268 average, 818 OPS, 115 OPS plus. That's over across a 17-year career. Obviously, he played most of that in Oakland from 98 to 2000 before heading on over to the Yankees and then finally finishing his career with the Diamondbacks. So I like the direction they're going in terms of having a guy who had an extensive playing career, was good on both sides of the ball, and is ready to implement that stuff from a coaching standpoint. Am I a fan of the whole average comment? Uh, Not really. I don't want to get in these arguments with people, but I don't want to construct any lineup that is average heavy or OBP heavy. Like we talked about, the Yankees were OBP heavy. It was great. Guess what? Their average was bad. Their slugging percentage was bad. I was looking it up today because I was writing an article. They had the 17th slugging percentage in the league. So who gives a shit about OBP at that point if you're not putting the ball in play or you're not getting as many hits as you should? I don't care about a walk with a runner in scoring position. It doesn't do much except put the double play ball in play. So I know what he's saying. I hope that we have, as we talked about before, the kind of the best of both worlds, merging of the perspectives, understanding that a guy like DJ LeMahieu, who could potentially hit 330 and maybe only OBP like 370 or 380, is arguably just as valuable as a guy hitting 240 with an OBP of 410. I think there's a lot to look at there, and coming to a conclusion that balancing the lineup with these different kind of characteristics is beneficial. You shouldn't be looking at, oh, this guy gets on base a lot, great, so he's valuable. Let's get more of those guys. This isn't the 2002 A's. We don't need to do that. We have money. We should be operating more like the Dodgers, where we're getting a mix of these guys. But hopefully Chavez is kind of the voice of reason that helps us combine all of the aspects there, because he did hit for average. He did get on base, and he was a good. He hit extra base hits. So I like his player makeup. I always enjoyed watching him as a kid. I think it's a smart hire for the Yankees, and younger direction. He's like a little bit young for by the time he'll actually become manager. And I think it's intriguing that he was considered as a manager and now he's taking a lesser role with the Yankees. So that might mean that there is a plan in place for him, or they do view him highly enough to either make him a prominent voice in Boone's ear, or be like, hey, look, this is a springboard to either you taking over eventually, or you're going to get a lot of exposure and get a managerial job next offseason, the offseason after. So cool stuff. I'll be more excited when I see it in action, though. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, Chavez and Luis Rojas, I mean, it's hard to really do better than that from a filling out coaching staff perspective. At least I think. I mean, again, I've been proven wrong a lot lately, and it's, minor things that I get excited about end up being massive bummers and downturns. So who knows? But I am a believer in Matt Blake. I am a believer in Dylan Lawson, and I think Chavez and Rojas are theoretically ancillary pieces of this coaching staff with a lot of perspective on things. They are not the lead hitting coach. They are not the bench coach. They are definitely not the manager. So if you can, slot those names in as the fourth and fifth most important voices in the room, I think that's interesting to me, especially because Chavez is a guy with managerial buzz that has dissipated a little bit and is now willing to take, like you said, a much lesser role. We're going to talk about a trade target nobody's talking about. But before we do that, going to take a quick pivot and let you guys know about a much more interesting podcast than ours, the Knuckleheads podcast, presented by the Players Tribune, featuring NBA veterans Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles. They're lifelong friends and bona fide truth tellers. Listeners, they invite special guests, high-profile athletes, musicians, and entertainers to get brutally honest about everything from current events to untold stories from the golden era of sports and culture. Named for the on-court celebration they made wildly popular, this unfiltered, hilarious, and surprising podcast is like playing NBA 2K with no fouls. I'm sure that's, if you got NBA 2K for Christmas, I don't know enough fouls, you just beat the hell out of your little brother, but it's a much more fun way to go about life than having fouls turned on, having refs and rules, even in the fake world that you're inhabiting. It's like when Dwight is a paper salesman in his second life. Why would you turn on fouls, if you're going to play basketball? Why would you listen to a filtered NBA podcast? You wouldn't. You want the real world? The Knuckleheads podcast presented by the Players Tribune is for you. This is the 7th season. Guests this season include Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Sue Bird, DeMar DeRozan, heavy hitters. So please give a listen to the presented by the Players Tribune if you want honest, unfiltered. And we're going to give you the most filtered, somewhat honest possible MLB talk. We're a totally different plane of action. So highly recommend that podcast. Now let's dive into, before we head out, a trade target that nobody's talking about. This is pure theory. There is nothing to this except speculation, because once again, baseball has been shut down for nigh on 4 weeks. There's nothing but speculation at this point. I just feel like we've run through every other potential target that is actually on the table. Everybody knows about Ketel Marte. Everybody knows about Matt Olson and how the trade talks unfortunately got stalled on the 1 yard line just before the lockout. It would have been really nice to be able to complete that. But unfortunately, we're going to be on the 1 yard line for 3 months. Would love to hear from the Resurgence bandwagon on what's going on there. But unfortunately, we'll not get that chance. Brian Reynolds, everybody knows about. The pitcher options, there are precious few of them. Kyle Hendricks. We've talked to death about all of these people, so everybody knows who is on the table for the Yankees to try to get and not get, not actually dip into the conversation on, and so we can all pretend they are, but they won't. One name I wanted to surface just because he fits the bill of people the Yankees have traded for in the past. He fits the bill of people who've certainly been traded in the past. There's been a mass exodus from Pittsburgh. We've seen several players leave Pittsburgh and become aces, co-aces, semi-aces. Garrett Cole, gone. Tyler Glasnow, gone. Joe Musgrove, gone. Everybody knows about the Pirates pipeline. Jameson Taillon, of course, became a Yankee last winter. The Pittsburgh Pirates have top prospects. They enter the rotation. They don't develop them for a year or 2 or 3, and then they move on somewhere else. Stephen Brault, Chad Kuhl have been fingered as Yankees targets these past 12 or 13 months or so as well. Still waiting on those guys. Trevor Williams went to the Cubs last year and to the Mets. I mean, he's not quite the same. He's sort of a, everybody knows Trevor Williams. What you're getting is a 5-starter with a 4-starter ceiling. That's not exactly what we're talking about here, but we are talking about very effective top prospects who've come to the big leagues and not performed. So I just want to be the first one on record to flag Mitch Keller as an option. I don't know if he is going. Look, I certainly don't know if he's going to be traded. I do know that he is currently projected to pitch the most innings for the 2022 Pittsburgh Pirates. That's a bad sign. He's a former top 100 prospect who got all the way up to number 12 at some point before having a great short in 2020 with nobody in the ballpark. Then he Julius Randled in 2021. That's shorthand for as soon as they let fans in the stands, he sucked. Mitch Keller last year was bad, was quite awful with upper 90s, upper echelon stuff. There's a reason he's a top prospect. There's a reason he's cracking the top end of the top 100. It's not just projectability. It's stuff. Nasty. You watch the highlights. Nasty curveball, 97, 98 mile an hour fastball, 4-pitch mix, changeup, which is Matt Blake's favorite thing to emphasize. And yet last year, still 5-11, 6.17 ERA, no control, 1.788 whip. Way too hittable, way too wild. The pitcher is not there yet. If you're acquiring Mitch Keller and it costs you real prospects or someone with an actual pedigree, you're probably making a mistake, or you're probably 2 years away. Like you're a team that's not trying to compete in 2022. But if you're the Yankees and it doesn't cost you all that much, and it costs you less than Taillon coming back from injury costs you get the Pirates, who, by the way, people talk all the time about, like, you never want to win a trade by so much that a team will never want to trade with you again. You don't want to fleece them the maximum, so next time you come calling, they're like, what the hell are you? Why would we even talk to you again? You stole our best player, garbage man. That is the opposite position as the Yankees and Pirates right now. The Yankees took Jameson Taillon off their hands. Taillon was good. Taillon had a month where he's the pitcher of the American League pitcher of the month. It certainly worked out when he was healthy. He wasn't healthy all the time, but it was a win-win for both sides. The Yankees got Taillon for 2 years. Year 1 wasn't that bad. The Pirates got Roansy Contreras, who's they're right towards the tippy top of their prospect list. Made the Futures game this year. Might be on the roster next year. Miguel Yajure was also very good last year, and Kanan Smith had a very good season at the minor league level. The Yankees also gave them Hoy Park, who we believed in. We at least wanted to see him get a chance. The Yankees did take Clay Holmes, but that's 2 Yankees-Pirates deals last year. So these two teams have an understanding. Everybody's sort of comfortable and confident with both sides of the Taillon deal at this point. No regrets from either side. If the Yankees have to give up a ton to get Mitch Keller, no thank you. He very well might just be a bust who never puts it all together. If the Yankees can get Mitch Keller at a relative discount, maybe one back-end top 10 prospect, one top 20 guy, call it a day, knock somebody else off the 40-man, I'd be interested because it can't possibly get much worse from last year. Nobody's flagging this. That's the main reason I'm raising the flag and just saying this Pirates pitcher pipeline has been a thing these past 3 or 4 years. Is this the next example of somebody moving on and finding it elsewhere?
Maybe. I think your price is a little bit excessive for a guy with a 6.02 ERA and a.
I'm just looking at the 2018 top prospect list and saying, if I'm the Pirates, am I really going to surrender him for nothing? Probably not.
No, I mean, I guess, at that point, though, maybe you just hold on to him if you're them, because a higher asking price just isn't going to get the deal done. The one silver lining here is that, yes, 6.17 ERA in 2021, but a 4.30 FIP. I don't know what that means. I still kind of don't know what that means. But only over 2 points lower. This is what the people like to see. They like to see the peripheral stats. They like to see how the stuff kind of played in different scenarios rather than the surface level stuff. I like this move, like we're saying, if it's cheap and if Mitch Keller is not emphasized. We need guys to eat innings. That's going to be very crucial for 2022. We saw the issues that the rotation had when guys continued to go down. You really don't want to be shuttling guys back and forth and not getting the quality innings that you need. You want to be competitive on a nightly basis. You don't want to be wasting bullpen arms. You don't want to be burning guys out. And that's kind of what happened this past year. So I'm on board. If it's a depth move. I'm on board if this guy can, go 120, 130 innings in kind of in maybe a hybrid role. Maybe Mitch Keller comes out of the bullpen and throws 3 innings. I don't know. I don't know, but I like where your head's at. We got to explore all the avenues possible. Not entirely just a weird guy, like comes in, debuts in 2019, 65 strikeouts in his first 48 innings, 7.13 ERA in 11 starts, and a 3.19 FIP. Like, what's going on here? And then you have his 2021 where you thought he was good. You thought he was good. You look at the numbers, you think he's good. 2.91 ERA, but that was only in 5 starts. Didn't even get to 22 innings. It was 21 and a third, and his FIP was a 6.74. What's going on? 16 strikeouts over that span, and then last year, I already said the stats, but 92 whiffs in just over 100 innings, and his walks dramatically increased. 49 walks in those 100 innings, so not great. But maybe there's something there, like you said. Maybe Matt Blake's the guy to unlock it. I'm not. Look, I'm not. I don't want to hate, but I'm not going to jump on the Matt Blake bandwagon and think that he's fully turned around the pitching staff after 1 year. I love what he's doing. There is a sect of the fan base that seems to think he's God. Maybe he is. I don't know, but I don't think a year and a half is enough to kind of diagnose that. I like the direction it's going in. And I like how he's been utilizing certain guys and maximizing their strengths. And I think, hey, if the Yankees get a guy like Keller, who has the stuff that he might want to emphasize, that Blake might want to emphasize, we could be talking about this as a more realistic, kind of situation for the Yankees, where they have one of the best pitching coaches in the league who's rediscovering and kind of creating career renaissances for these guys who haven't entirely found their stuff. So I'm not opposed to it. Just going to be realistic about it.
Wouldn't that be nice? I'm obviously not. I'm not getting on the soapbox and being like, we have to surrender assets for Mitch Keller. I'm just trying to find solutions we haven't already talked about. There's so much has been talked about already. Part 2 of this will probably be, when I suggested Nicky Lopez for the shortstop position, the Royals Twitter came after us. When we suggested Luke Voigt to the Brewers Twitter was like, we want the 2020 home run leader. So every time we pitch something, it's just like, hey, nobody's talking about this. A lot of people are like, shut the hell up, which is how you know that you touched the right nerve, maybe. Or
Brewers fans can kiss my ass, dude. I used to like this team. And then they were talking shit all year, and then the Braves waxed them in the playoffs, and now they're saying like guys are untouchable. Willy Adames is untouchable when multiple MLB insiders
saying Willy Adames is untouchable, like we invented the Willy Adames trade. Yeah, in the Joel Sherman column, you lunatics.
Yeah. And Josh Hader, there was famous buzz at the end of the season talking about how the coaching staff is a little bit fed up with the fact that he refuses to pitch more than 1 inning and he refuses it to not be in a save situation. So I'm not making this stuff up to get Josh Hader to the Yankees. I don't really want Josh Hader on the Yankees.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, but some of the things line up, and Brewers talking about these guys like they're their firstborn children. It's like, dude, they're baseball players and they might get traded. The Brewers, like David Stearns famously just takes guys in and out to figure out how to construct the best roster. He's a smart dude. Rays-esque, if you ask me. So I wouldn't put anything past it. Brewers fans holding on to their players like this in this regard, like Willy Adames is like the best shortstop in the league. Like Josh Hader is going to turn your franchise around as a closer. Those are assets that you can either get value for or you need to kind of maximize if your team's going to contend. And with Christian Yelich's backslide, among other things, the Brewers don't entirely look like a team that might take the next step in 2022. I don't know, but it's worth thinking that it's worth pondering if they would retool. I'm just sick of people. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, your GM's going to the Mets, assholes. Enjoy. Before we sign off, I'm sick of just one more specific man. I'm not going to sit on this. I did a David Ortiz Hall of Fame rant like a month ago. Most of these Yankees podcasts end with just a David Ortiz Hall of Fame rant. So here we are now. He's getting in. He's getting in. He's getting in for the ballot. He might be the only one who gets in. He's the only one who's getting a significant bump. A-Rod honestly polling higher than I thought he would. He's polling at like 50%.
That's nice.
This is easy. This is the easy part of the conversation. I'm no longer going to be the guy who looks in the camera and is like, if you're going to vote for one PED guy, why is it David Ortiz? Why is it no one else? I don't care. The media has told me all it wants to tell me about Rob Manfred clearing David Ortiz's name at David Ortiz Day at Fenway Park, as if that's unbiased. And there's no agenda there. Also, we hate Rob Manfred, but now we trust him implicitly on the David Ortiz PED stuff. Okay, great. I'm done caring. I don't care. But if you're going to be the guy who justifies your David Ortiz vote, do not be like this man who's unfortunately I forgot to pull up his name. So here we go. You guys are just gonna have to wait as I scroll.
Patrick Saunders.
I didn't think it was Patrick Saunders. It was Phil Rogers. It was Phil Rogers.
Yeah. Sorry,
who's
Pat.
a longtime Chicago scribe who, Patrick Saunders. You're just scrolling through all of the lame 65-year-old plus Hall of Fame voters who've.
Well, he got called out for something. I forgot what it was. Everyone's just calling people out for shit. Doesn't matter what.
Saunders had like a no Bonds, but yes Ortiz and yes Jeff Kent and no Clemens or some garbage ballot. I mean, everybody has a terrible ballot. So if you're going to vote for David Ortiz, just say, I don't believe his PED test is as damning as everybody else, or I'm voting in all PED people, or I'm being discerning, but PEDs don't really matter that much to me. Say any of those things. That is fine. If you're going to be like Phil Rogers, maybe you don't get a Hall of Fame vote. Phil Rogers said he voted for Ortiz. He voted for Schilling, by the way, which is like Schilling told you don't vote for him.
Why are we voting for Schilling?
Please don't vote for me. Do not vote for me. I do not want to get in. Phil Rogers is like, very interesting. Well, you have my vote. It's like, what are you talking about? So Phil Rogers Hall of Fame ballot. Absolutely brilliant, next level brain genius stuff here. You get to vote for 10 people. He voted for 4. David Ortiz is in. Great. Kurt Schilling is in. Kurt Schilling said, don't vote for me. Phil Rogers said, here you loud and clear, Kurt. You got my vote. Kurt's like, God damn it. Scott Rowland is in. Okay. He's inching towards 75. He's probably going to get in soon. I actually find it really hard to have an opinion on Scott Rowland. He's probably a Hall of Famer. Probably other people of his talent level waited longer to get in, but you know what? Great. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. And the 4th vote is Mark Burley. No. Okay. I actually like Mark Burley. I'm higher on him than most too, but only 4 and 2 of them are Schilling and Mark Burley. Okay, welcome. No Bonds, no Clemens, no A-Rod, no Manny, no Billy Wagner, who I also believe in, no Sosa, no Sheffield. The list goes on and on and on and on. So he voted for David Ortiz and said, quote, to answer the question, David Ortiz was a tough vote, but nobody has better defended themselves from PED linkage. If you're going to vote for David Ortiz, do not say that. Do not lie to me. David Ortiz's defense was, I didn't do them. I'm going to look for the real PED injector. I promise you I didn't do them. Never did that. Never came back and circled back with the data he found. Basically said, I never put anything in my body. I'm going to look and see. I'm definitely going to look into it. It's a very interesting point. I'll see, what was responsible for my positive test. Never did that again. And then, like we said, Rob Manfred came out on David Ortiz weekend and said, some of those survey tests were a little faulty. So there might have been a couple false positives in there. And then if you asked him, was David Ortiz one of those false positives? He would have no idea. He would not be able to say there were maybe 5 or 6 false positives in a sample of the entire major leagues, right? Yeah. So I don't know. Could be David Ortiz. Could not be. No reason to think it is. Say what you will. Say you doubt the positive test. Say he never tested positive again in the 17 years after that. That's the most valid argument to me. David Ortiz had his best years of his career with the MLB testing program in place and never tested positive again. That's a fine argument. But to say he did the best job of defending himself, he didn't even do a job of defending himself. He let Rob Manfred do his dirty work for him. He said he was going to come back with the note that proved he was innocent, and he never did. So don't patronize me and lie to me. Say Ortiz was clean for most of his career. Say PEDs don't really affect your vote, or say that Ortiz was nice to you, and so he's getting your vote and you believe in him. But do not say he did the best job of defending himself. That's not true. He didn't even try.
No, and he said the reason the test surfaced was because too many Yankees tested positive, and they needed someone from Boston to join the list. So, like I
Absolutely
said,
true, David.
I
Yeah,
like,
for
yeah,
sure.
just crazy stuff. I like David Ortiz, to be honest. Yankee fans, I mean, I don't like, I don't want him to come back and play against us, but
No.
cool guy, great player, certainly a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's first ballot. My opinion doesn't matter. I don't have a vote. I also don't care what you guys think about what I think, but you look at his career numbers. You want to talk about people who are advanced stat heads and are pleading the cases for all these other guys who are overlooked because they have high WARs, or their defensive run saved were incredible, or their OPS plus was off the charts and nobody even realized it. David Ortiz is like 56 WAR, which is not a lot. It's like very low when you look at the totality of it and how many people are in the Hall of Fame with higher WARs, and WAR is apparently the holy grail for a lot of these voters. So it's just inconsistent stuff that doesn't really line up and make sense. Like we said, a lot of the Hall of Fame discourse is, can you talk about said era of baseball without X player? I don't think you could talk about the last 20 years of baseball without David Ortiz, which is why a big reason he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he should be the only person on this ballot getting in. I thought, there are other way more worthy players, regardless of what the black clouds are whatever black clouds are hanging over their head. It's a tough situation. I think we have to get to a point though where MLB and the baseball community and the writers and everybody in between just starts acknowledging that we had a checkered past with all this. I understand putting certain guys on a platform and enshrining them in history can send the wrong message for guys who did steroids, for guys who had off the field issues. Like, a lot of people talk, oh, Barry Bonds never failed the test. Yeah, but Barry Bonds' wife testified in court and said that he beat her all the time. So that's also, I think, another aspect of it that has shied voters away from putting him in. And it sucks because we're here to talk about a player's career, not about what they did off the field, but it all weighs in. It's all a certain factor, and we have to live with it. I think the sooner that MLB can figure out a way to get these guys in and sect them off and talk about, oh, hey, this guy was a great baseball player, but there are racists in the Hall of Fame. There are guys who are against segregation. There are anti-Semites in the Hall of Fame. It sucks. It's not a good look, but the sooner MLB can kind of acknowledge its past, but the past of the world has all of these troubling things. People have done bad stuff. People have been aligned with the wrong ideals, the wrong philosophies, and everything of that nature. So I think there's got to be some sort of merging of the honesty aspect of it and the walking on eggshells for certain players. David Ortiz obviously doesn't fall under that, even though he does have some questionable off the field stuff with the backstory behind the shooting. There was rumors he was cheating with a drug lord's mistress or wife or something. He just divorced his wife. So, everybody goes through stuff. Everybody has their things, and people in higher profile situations certainly are, it's more magnified. And, we're all people at the end of the day, very much not infallible. So
Who among us has not slept with a drug lord's mistress? Far be it from me. You will not cast the first stone there.
Yeah, well, once again, we don't know if that's true, but that's the buzz around it, and we had buzz around other players. We had buzz around certain players doing steroids that we don't know if they did steroids or not. So a lot of the stuff is complicated. Sooner MLB and baseball and everybody in between gets off the high horse and can understand, hey, we're people, we're humans, we make mistakes, some of us worse than others. I think it would be smart to have some sort of asterisk next to these players, or a certain part of the hall that talks about this person's career, their trials and tribulations and all that, because I don't think ignoring a part of history is kind of the way to go about this. But that's my more grander scope rant here. The defense of David Ortiz there is the dumbest I've ever heard. You're telling me that Rafael Palmeiro didn't defend himself more? He went in front of fucking Congress, dude. So I don't know. David Ortiz said 3 comments and then never actually got to the bottom of it, which he promised he would 10 years ago or 12 years ago or whatever it was. So I don't know where this defense holds any weight with a vote that is as momentous as enshrining somebody in the Hall of Fame. But it's irresponsible to me and also senseless. So there's something, the baseball community with the voting, there's something wrong with it. I don't understand a lot of these ballots. I don't understand the explanations, the reasoning behind it, or just the fact that these people think that they are holier than thou because they hold the keys to putting these people in this certain position. I don't like it. I don't like what it's become. And that's why I think we need to have a grander conversation of how we're going to view these people as time goes on and how we should view them for their actions in the past. A lot of things that have to happen, but don't defend David Ortiz like that. It's stupid. Just say you like them.
Yeah. Bud Selig's in the hall too. Like, I don't even think we need to go deeper into that. Like, if you're letting the king of steroids into the hall, I think we need to probably give all these other steroid guys a pass. But that's just me. I'm just the guy. I'm just a guy watching Omar Vizquel absolutely plummet in the vote count, which is what really matters. But Ortiz really in the early balloting, he's at like 81%. You need to get to 75. And typically when the private ballots get factored in, you lose 5 or 6 points. And so we're at the point where Ortiz really might get in by like 1 or 2 votes. So all the Phil Rogers in the world actually really matter. If you're someone who cares about the sanctity of this kind of thing, I'd put Ortiz in. I'm not even arguing that. And I'd put him in first ballot, but a lot of the concerns about his first ballot entry are valid. And so you're having guys like Phil Rogers who are saying he did an incredible job of defending himself, the best I've ever heard. When again, you're right. There were guys who went in front of Congress and said, I did not take steroids.
Yeah.
Theoretically facing jail time for lying to Congress. So I would say that's a better, whether you believe him or not, it's a better job than Ortiz saying, yeah, I'll look into it, and then never looking into it. That's just me. That's it for this Yankees edition. Come on.
It technically
That's
is.
For this edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. Make sure to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a 5-star review along with a mailbag question. We'll be more than happy to answer it. And we will be here again Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, just like we were today, Monday, December 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube and Twitter and streaming. We will be more active as the offseason builds, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Not currently seeing a resolution to all of this nonsense. Two sides are going to be talking in January, so we've heard. Until next time, you can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes, baby. You can talk to us also on the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Happy to answer questions there. I know there's not a lot going on. Hopefully the new year brings some more discourse. Hopefully other fans of teams get off my back. I don't know why proposing trades now is against the law, but apparently it kind of is. And you can also head on over to yanksgoyard.com. Plenty of content there for you. We're trying our best, getting some off-season stuff, keeping the conversation going, making sure that we are properly diagnosing the Yankees' problems, getting this roster where it needs to be in 2022 so we can just get away. 2021 needs to just go away. I'm done with it. We're done with it. Everybody should be done with it. And we only have one more episode before this year ends. So, folks, hope you had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that. We'll be coming to you live on Thursday at 2 o'clock with a New Year's Eve-ish edition. Last episode of the year. Could be fun. We'll see what there is to talk about.
Could be fun. We'll see y'all on Thursday.